You gotta let them. You gotta let them walk away. The reason why is because you want to be what I like to call a lover of faith. Faith has something in store with every single one of us. And what it has in store usually doesn't appear as though it's something that you want in the present moment. But one of the beautiful things about life is that if you accept whatever happens and embrace it, it has a quality where all of a sudden you start to see that it was meant to be. Where all of a sudden this situation that appears to be painful has a wider purpose. And rather than trying to hold on to them, you let them walk away. And what happens is that if you consistently allow people to come into your life, show love to people, but also never hold on to them, treat them like a cat, what happens is that whatever is meant to happen in the positive tends to happen. Nothing bad. The thing is that sometimes, fuck it, who cares? The thing is that sometimes you have outgrown them, and that sometimes turned them off. Sometimes they feel like maybe that you're better than them, or that you're just different, or they don't feel that chemistry. But sometimes it just means that you have outgrown them and they're walking away from you because you're just not on their level anymore. And that happens a lot, even with people when they become rich. A lot of the times their friends are not going to want to be around them because they can sense that their friend is different. That does happen. And the reason why that is because if they stay with those friends, eventually they're going to go back to those habits. So it's almost like the universe's way of giving you something that you need, but that you don't know that you need. And it's painful. And because we don't have enough perspective, we resist it and we try to hold on to it. You got to be a lover of faith. Understand that if it's happening, just believe it's happening for a reason and accept it. I swear to God, only good things happen when you do that. When you do the opposite, bad things happen. When you resist life that way, it's just what it does. If you're noticing that you've been single for like 2 years, for example, and most of the dates are not good, see that as though it's faith and that there's something here that the universe is trying to tell you, that God is trying to tell you. And what happens is that you actually end up benefiting from that more than actually getting what you want. And then, ironically, nothing bad ever occurs when you do this. You never lose. You always win in the long run. Now, why is that? Well, because unfortunately, the biggest mistakes we make is trying to hold on to things that is fundamentally changing. We don't like when things change. Reason why is because it is one of the human fears, which is object permanence. Humans are afraid of death. And change is an indication that we're heading towards the ultimate reality, the ultimate disintegration and separation, which is death itself. Ignoring the changes allows us to blunt that thought of death, to blunt the fear that consistently haunts us. And so when we see people change, we resist it. Because if we're noticing that they're pulling away, we try to ignore those red flags. We try to ignore that they're pulling away, and we try extra. We start to act desperate, act needy. And that resistance, that you not wanting to see the reality that maybe they're pulling away, maybe they're not going to be in your life, causes you to actually push them away even further. But whenever you allow things to happen, meaning it's not that things are not painful for you, but that you know that you could handle the pain. You know that you're able to feel pain and recover from it. And that thought illuminates your character. That relaxation, that faith in your faculties to be able to recover from trauma and pain allows you to be more in the present moment. It gives you a supporting aura, a type of energy that draws people to you. Where if you actually adopt this type of mindset, some people who would have walked away would not have walked away. But in order to get to this type of mindset, you have to be willing to let them walk and not hold on to it. And it's hard for people to do that. Because what tends to happen is that our ego gets involved. And the reason why it's our ego is because when we find someone that we like, we try to hold on to them because we don't want to lose them. Like, it's painful to find things that we love and lose it. But the only thing that it's painful to is to the ego. That ego doesn't like to feel pain, doesn't like to see change, because change indicates death itself. Change indicates that things will eventually entropy into non-existence. And so the ego doesn't like to see that changes. And so it tries to control things. It tries to control them. If they're going to walk away, you start to either start acting like the victim, start acting needy, or you start to act super manipulative. But all of those negative habits arise because you are resisting change. Sometimes them leaving is the universe opening up space for you to find someone better, someone who's healthier. Or sometimes them leaving is the space that they need to realize that you are special to them. But those positive realizations, like a flower that is blooming, those positive realizations will not bloom if you keep resisting. If you keep trying to hold on to them, it's never going to bloom. They're only going to see the negative. But if you let them walk away, sometimes that walking away allows them to see how important and special you are in their lives, right? To me, it's one of those things that sometimes life forces change on you, and it's actually trying to tell you something. And you can never really understand what life is trying to tell you if you're just trying to hold on to this thing that's walking away from you, right? Like, you may not understand it now, but in the future, a lot of the times, the months and the years saying what the days do not. Meaning that as time goes by, you're going to start to see the wisdom in them walking away from your life, right? And sometimes people come back. Sometimes people just needed a break. Sometimes people were just too immature. Sometimes people haven't grown yet. Like how people, like sometimes you have where high school sweethearts date, then they don't date after a few years, and then 15 years later, they get back together. It's not something that happens often, but sometimes people are just not ready, right? And I'll be honest with you, the biggest mistake that a lot of people make consistently is that they hold on for too long. Like, it's almost like having an animal that is dying, but because you love the animal, you don't want to let them walk, you don't want to let them die, right? People hold on to people for too long, and what happens is that they become corrupted on the inside. They end up hating that person. They end up experiencing and feeling feelings of resentment. And those things it's a start to a descent to becoming toxic. Like, sometimes when they walk away, sometimes it's the universe or God trying to prevent you from becoming toxic yourself. And, and it's so it's kind of like become a lover of faith. Embrace whatever happens. Maybe they don't want you no more. Well, then embrace it and try to find a way to cope with it in a positive way. What you learn from trying to cope with loss, a lot of the times becomes more valuable than what you lost itself. And sometimes that was actually the end goal. It was actually to get you to that destination. And you know what's funny? We all could say that. For everything that we've lost in the past, we all could say it was actually worth it. When I got fired as a correction officer, I was like working with prisoners who would stab you. I feel bad, but you know what? It led me to start my YouTube channel. Like, there's a lot of positives that happen when you lose things. And the only reason why it feels horrible is because it just happened. But as time passes by and you cope properly, not like doing crack to cope with it, if you cope with it properly, things always arise that are positive, and it makes the pain worthwhile. That's the beauty about faith. If you embrace faith, everything becomes positive eventually. But the problem is that in the beginning, it doesn't. And you have to understand that that's an illusion. Over time, the illusion will fade, and you'll see that this thing that you thought was bad is actually something that you greatly needed and you just didn't know. Anyways, hey, let me know if that video makes sense. If you guys enjoy this type of content, hit the like button. We're having 50% off all of our courses using the coupon code BLACK. and it finishes at the end of the week. So it finishes in 2 days, and 20% off working with me one-on-one. Use the coupon code BLACK, and that also finishes in 2 days. Take care. Bye-bye.